What's up, everybody? I'm hoping to connect with you guys out there and to inspire you is to trust the process. I grew up in Houston, Texas, in a poor drug and alcoholic home, and I grew up with a lot of shame. But I knew that I didn't want to be like my brothers and sisters. My brothers and sisters were alcoholics by the time they were teenagers, and I was always ashamed whenever I saw my brother or sister out around the neighborhood drunk. So I want to ask the question: would you rather, growing up, be in a rich family or grow up in that poor family? At least in the rich family, you can hide all your problems with your money, with your material life, and not having to hide from it all in public because everything is behind closed doors. The abuse, the drugs, the alcohol, the cheating, all those things would be hidden if you were in a rich family. But let me transition this and give a contrast of I would not trade my journey in trusting the process and what I've been through with my family, being drugs and alcoholics, seeing everything in public, than being a rich person and thinking that I have it all together when there's a lot of cheating, even suicide. But I knew at 13 years old, growing up on food stamps, growing up seeing my brothers and sisters do drugs and alcohol, I knew at 13 years old that I wasn't going to be like that. My older brother, by 27 years old, he died of tuberculosis from drugs and alcohol, and I hated him. But one thing that I have to look back and say that my brother taught me was how to swim and how to defend myself. So I was being made fun of in the neighborhood. Everybody's opinion was, I'm going to be a drug addict just like my family. I'm going to be in jail. I'm not going to get a education. Everybody's opinion of me was negative, but it wasn't my reality. Thank God for my mother being the disciplinary in our family for for us five kids. So I did graduate from high school. No one was there for my family when I received my high school diploma, and that was very devastating. It was very it was hurting, and I hid that, everything. But it was one of the proudest moments of my life, and it still kind of hurt today that I didn't grow up in a close knit family. But trust the process because there's something good in it. After I graduated from high school, I moved with my aunt and uncle. And here's the reason why I ended up moving with my aunt and uncle, because my mother's younger sister, tried to help her take care of us. But they treated my mother like she was stupid. Just being real. My mother was disabled. She didn't have an education, but she did preach to us kids: get a good education, a good job, and go to school, get a good education, and get a good job. I did that, but my mother, because the way my aunt and them talked to my mother, she tried to raise us on our own. So when I graduated from high school, I was in college. I was 19 years old, and they sent for me. They knew I was old enough to come stay with them in Michigan. They knew I was old enough to make the decision to leave Houston, Texas. So I left Houston, and my uncle, my aunt's husband, got me a job in the plant, Pontiac Motors. I don't know if any of you guys out there knew about Pontiac Motors back then. I worked in the plant, making $11 an hour back in 1985. And I thought that, I didn't go back to school. The dumbest thing I could have ever done. At least I thought anyway at the time. Um, I thought I was going to get hired in the plant full time, and I didn't. So I got let go after that summer year of 1985. and I worked at a fast food restaurant, Chi Chi's, in Michigan, off of Bloomfield Hills Road, I think it was. And I hated that job. I was a dishwasher, but because how I grew up, I didn't want to carry food stamps, so I worked odd jobs growing up so that I can have real money in my pocket. So my friends wouldn't see me at the grocery store buying food or pop or whatever it was that I wanted to buy with food stamps. So that was the shame that I carried for a long time. But I worked at Chi Chi's for, let's say, 2 years, 2.5 years, from 1985 to 1987, and I got fired. I started drinking at age 21, like most of us. I was cool with the manager, and he didn't have a car, so I gave him a ride. We used to smoke together. We used to drink or whatever. So I used to take my job for granted, and I wouldn't listen to other managers. So in the 2 years that I had been at Chi Chi's Mexican restaurant, I I got moved up to cook. So and I was pretty good at it. Like I said, everything I did my best at it. And so happened one night, one of the managers asked, if you got to close, you got to stay there, you got to clean up, you got to wrap everything up, put everything back in the walk-in and the refrigerator for the next day. So one of the managers asked me did I want, oh no, not, she didn't ask me. She asked in Pacific, who want to go home early? And I said, oh, I do. She said, okay, Benny, clean up this area and then I'll let you go. This was a Friday night, so I was ready to go party. So I cleaned everything up. I took all the food, I put it in the walk-in. I put some plastic wrap over everything, put all the old stuff, whatever that wasn't used or whatever, in the garbage thing that needed to be discarded. And it seems like, it took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to clean up. And it seemed like soon as I cleaned up, the manager came back because she looked at the schedule and realized that I was on the schedule to close and no one else could cover for me. So she came back and she said, Benny, you can't leave because you have to close. Guys, I got so mad, I got so upset, and I took all the food out of the garbage can. I put it back in the pans. I took the food out of the walk-in. I put it back in the little slots, and then I said, "Get the person that's not closing to clean this up." So, like I said, me and the manager, we were cool. And the next day I came in, he had to fire me. And because he said, well, Benny, I can't let you keep going off on my managers. I have to stay in with my manager, so I have to let you go. So I had a car. I had a car to pay for at the time. And, I was looking in the newspaper and I seen in the Detroit News Tribune, it says $1,200 a month, be willing to relocate, 1-800 number. So, I dialed this 1-800 number, rotary dial back in the day. And, it was like, United States Navy, can I help you? And I'd say, oops, I hung up and I thought I dialed the wrong number. So I look at that job classified ad again, and I got the same answer. And I said, yeah, I'm answering the one ad. It says 1,200 a month, be willing to relocate. And the guy on the other end said, yeah, United States Navy, would you like to come in and take the exam? And I looked around because there was nothing going on in my life in Pontiac, Michigan at the time. And I said, why not? So I hung up the phone. I went down to the Detroit MEP station. I took the assessment test to join the United States Navy. And 6 months later, I was on a ship in the Persian Gulf. And it was brutal. I almost committed suicide. Those voices in my head, what everybody said to me in my environment growing up in Houston, that I wasn't good enough, that I was going to end up being in jail, I was going to be an alcoholic. But thank God, I think I was chosen. Well, I know I was chosen because I wouldn't be here making this video talking to you guys today about trusting the process. But I heard those voices. I was over in the Persian Gulf. It was dark. I wasn't good enough. It says, that little voice said, jump, jump. And then I heard another voice, it was like my mother's voice telling me, that's more for me to do, that I've already beaten the odds and I can conquer this. So I turned around and opened up that ship hatch. And what I found out that night, I conquered my demons. And that next year, I was able to help one of my shipmates that was going through the same thing because, he missed his girlfriend. We was isolated out in the Persian Gulf, in the Middle East. So think about it. I was out there alone, about to jump off the ship by myself. But this man came and told me what he wanted, what he was going to do to his life. And I let him know. I said, man, you know what? You're going to be okay. I went through the same thing my first tour. You'll make it through. So let's fast forward. After I served my time in the United States Navy, I overcame the suicide attempt. Um, I looked for a job after I got out. I got hired on at Associated Grocers in 1990. I got out in 91. I got hired at Associated Grocers in 1992. And I was an admin clerk. I did my best. 5 years after being there, they wanted to make me a supervisor, and I was excited about that. I was still a young man, and but one thing that turned me away from that job because I knew that I was different. I kind of almost knew my purpose in life. You find your reason, you find your purpose. And the purpose is always about serving people. And I love encouraging people. I love helping people to see the other side of things on the positive side. But when they told me that I had to become more company to accept that supervisor's position, and this is just me, I'm not saying all of you guys need to turn down a promotion, but they said to me that I needed to become more company. And that said to me, I had to give up my authenticity. I had to give up who I was as a person. That I couldn't be mingling with people if they wasn't in they wasn't a manager. And that I've heard them tell other people that was a manager, that was a supervisor, that you are in management now. You can't be mingling with the subordinates. And so I turned that position down, but I still gave my best. I was still, encouraging people. I was still hanging out with people. And after being there 16 years, I always got a good raise, but just that one particular year that I didn't get a good raise, so I went to another company. Because here's the reason why: I had, still kind of supervisors access to things, so I knew how much the department spent on certain things. But yet they try to give me a nickel and dime when I knew my value of the company. If you're making the company money, they should reimburse you with, not just promotion, but a good substantial raise, stock or whatever it is. If you bring in good value to that company, and I knew I was, so I left that company in 2008, and then 2009, I worked for another company, Baroli Software Communication, downtown Seattle, Washington is where I reside. And and I went back to school. Actually, I went back to school in 2000, and I got an associate degree in computer network systems. And I got hired on at Baroli. A year later, I got laid off in 2009. And to let you guys know, I am a godly man. I am a spiritual man, and I live it and I walk it with the action. I don't just have the knowledge. God transformed my life from the inside out. And well, back to that story where I got laid off in 2009, and that was no fear. I wasn't afraid. I had just moved from Federal Way, which is a cheaper part of Washington State that I live in, to Bellevue, Washington, which is a little bit more expensive, which where Microsoft is at, Google, Intel, places like that. And I asked God, "What's next?" And he, like, kind of like some humor. He said, "I'm glad you asked." And The thing is, though, I was kind of scared because everything had doubled from when I used to live in on the south side, moving to the east side. My rent went from $650 to $1,200 something. But I never skipped a beat, and I have a truck. I still have it today, and it's all paid for. But I never skipped a beat, and God provided. And when I asked God what was next, and basically, personal training, and I'm like, personal training, I can't make a living off of that. But I didn't know that God was guiding my life all this time. This is the platform that I'm in today. I'm not just a personal trainer. I'm a life coach. I'm a holistic coach. What makes me different out of the billions life coaches, trainers, and all this stuff out there is that I had to learn this stuff from self discovery. I didn't sit down in a classroom. So I teach my clients how the wisdom and knowledge experience I've learned over the decades so they can keep it long term, not just in the physical, but in the mental, the spiritual, the emotional, the financial, teaching people that because I trust the process and it wasn't easy. So I'm hoping to inspire you guys. Whatever you're going through, that's a lesson. And if it's bad, get rid of it. If it's good, that's something in there for you to learn. But trust the process of life. Um, but I teach my clients how to live that way long term because I did it, right? I don't turn on social media. I don't watch the news. I don't, return text messages and all that's the first thing in the morning. So I keep my mind and my conscience clear for the first several hours of the morning, and we just got to manage our time better. So now that I'm a holistic coach, a trainer, a life coach, look at the journey that I've been through. It wasn't promising. It was not promising. And now I'm also a motivational public speaker. Again, what makes me different out of those public speakers that are out there? I want to give you a blueprint of how to maintain a healthy lifestyle, maintain a strong spiritual lifestyle, maintain a good financial stability, have boundaries in your life. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm 60 years old. I've been training all my life. I competed in professional natural bodybuilding. I own my own business. I have my websites. I have everything. This is why I wanted to get on this video and to inspire you guys to trust the process. And in trusting the process, you got to get help. You can't do it on your own. That's what I found out myself. I try to figure out so much of it on my own, and you can only get so far. So I ended up joining Toastmasters 6 years ago, and it was through one of my clients. And I said, "Hey, I want to be a public speaker, a motivational speaker." And she says, "Hey, well, you need to join Toastmasters." I thought to myself, I said, "I don't drink." And then she says, "No, silly, it's a public speaking organization. Would it help you to sharpen your public speaking skills?" I've been a part of Toastmasters for 6 years. I'm not an over the top speaker, but I do speak and inspires people through my stories and what I went through in life. And all this stuff that I went through, that you're going through, especially you young people today in this technology world, do not listen. I hope I'm inspiring you out there. Do not allow the environment, the people around you, opinions of you to become your reality. I'm a living testimony, and I'm pretty sure around the globe there's a lot of people out there that have overcame adversity. Nobody is going to escape this world. But by joining Toastmasters, and I'm still a part of Toastmasters, and the slogan for Toastmasters is it says, Toastmasters is the place where leaders are made. I believe that. But here is the kicker for this. Just because you join Toastmasters doesn't mean you're going to become a great speaker. at your job, in public, or in a group. But here's what I promise you. If you practice, 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 whatever you do, you'll become great at it. You'll become good at it. And I'm excited that I get to share my purpose, my gift, and my talent with you all to be the best version of yourself, to be authentic. Think about it. Would I trade growing up being poor in the neighborhood, knowing about my family who was drugs and alcohol that I couldn't hide from, than being in a rich family, being and everything being hidden and being something that I'm not because everything has been given to me because I have a status to hold up. I would not trade my family, the poor family with drugs and alcohol, for a rich family. I would not trade that for nothing in the world since I trust the process. And I knew at a young age that I wasn't going to stay there in Houston, Texas, that I made a decision. I was not going to be that alcoholic that everybody said that I was going to be. Think about the process. Now I've been owning my own business for the last 15 years. I'm financial free. And am I still perfect? No. I've been through two divorces. I just went through another divorce, but it's going on 2 years, 3 years. But I've been single for a while, and I'm living free. I'm full of joy. I'm full of peace. So trust the process. Trust the process. If you drop out of school, okay, look at what's next. What do you got to do? Go back. Or if you don't want to go back, look at what your gift and your talent and your skill is. When I first started weightlifting and getting into what I started doing, I read a Flex magazine, you know, and within 2 or 3 years, I put on muscle, I put on size. Not only that had to learn how to exercise, I had to learn the nutritional side. So whatever you do, trust the process and give it your best in whatever you do in this life. Don't allow someone else's opinion of you to become your reality. I'm a living testimony. I hope I inspire you to be the best version and be authentic. Don't follow the status quo because another one, status quo, you're not trusting the process if you're following the crowd. You're being unhealthy, you're not being yourself, or whatever it may be. You can become whatever you put your mind to that you're good at if you trust and believe yourself. Trust the process.